Okay, are we live? We've never done a live one, Joy?
Are we streaming? Oh.
No.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so today in the house, we got Mr. Kevin Khoury. We went to the same high school, Loyola High School.
That's
You're
right.
a year older than me. I graduated 2006. You're 2005, correct?
That's right.
And he is the CEO and founder of Journey Education. And we'll get into exactly what Journey Education does. I'm Curtis Killen. This is the Freemium podcast. And Mr. Khoury, thank you very much for being here. We had a little hiccup last week. Not a big deal at all. I know you had some business to take care of at the house, but I appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Super excited to be here.
So we got, I sent you over a couple questions. Funny enough, I always do this now. So I'll write the questions and I'll get ChatGPT. I'll go, this is what this person does. I'm having a podcast. This is the businesses they've started. What are some questions that I could ask? And a lot of times, like 50% of the questions, literally ChatGPT will make the questions because they're good questions. So, but talk to us about Journey Education.
Yeah, definitely. So Journey is a company I started 10 years ago. Essentially, what it is today is not what it was when I started, but today we're a product studio for educational products. So we create different products that allow people to launch careers in tech in a short amount of time. They're all digital online courses, basically, that we either create through our own brands or we partner with universities to do. And we run these courses really just to help mainly career changers, so like mid-career professionals who one day woke up and they're just not happy with their career or the way their professional life is going, and they say, I need something new. I need to make more money. I need better career outcomes. And so going back to school and doing like 3-year degrees doesn't really seem like it's worth it for them. So they're looking for short form courses that'll help them get there in high growth career paths. And up until this year, tech was really the way to go. We could talk about that after, but so that's what we do. We run what we call boot camps.
Yeah.
That help people accelerate their path into tech.
And it's people that I guess take the term learn to code literally, and they actually want to go learn or teach themselves how to code. Is that specifically it? Because I saw I went on your LinkedIn page and I was looking at, so we got Bluebird, Journey Education, there was Concordia boot camps. And then, so it said learn how to code, but also tech sales. So is it more you're helping people learn how to code, or you're teaching them about the actual tech industry itself? Like what specifically what's the why of Journey Education?
Yeah, so I think my mission is really just to help people live a better, more fulfilling professional life. And I chose to do that by educating people in tech because that's where I ended up right out of university, and I really fell in love with the industry and the sort of potential that it offers. I think there's great work cultures. Yeah. I think there's a lot of you could work remotely or anywhere in the world. The skills are really transferable, and you can earn a really good living. You can make decent money and live a great life, good work-life balance, and there's all sorts of things there. So what you're saying with the tech sales and the coding is actually a different suite of products entirely. So we have something called Bluebird, which is a course that we launched about 2 years ago that helps people launch careers in tech sales. And then on the coding front, we're partnered with Concordia University here in Montreal, where we actually run their coding bootcamp and their data science bootcamp. So these are 3 very, very different career paths that people can take to launch careers in tech.
What's data science?
Data science is basically many tech companies hire people that we call data scientists. They could do a whole bunch of different things, but the hot topic right now is really machine learning and AI, and just working with big chunks of data to either make sense of it for stakeholders of a business, or do things like, I don't know, say you're a data scientist at Netflix, perhaps you're working on the algorithm that shows people the content that they actually want to watch. So you use Netflix?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So you use Netflix, and then the more you use it, the more it starts to learn what kind of shows you like to watch, and then the more it starts to show you those shows. So you need someone to figure out how to analyze the data and actually create an algorithm that's going to say, okay, based on all the stuff that this person's doing, I'm going to show them these pieces of content because that's going to keep them on the platform more.
Interesting. And so here, let's rewind just a little bit. You mentioned at the beginning, so you graduated from Concordia, you went into tech. So I'm assuming that probably had an influence on you starting these businesses. What specifically did you go into, or what did you study at Concordia? And then what led you to go into tech after graduating from Concordia?
Yeah. So I studied marketing at Concordia.
Me too.
Did you?
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to get into business at a young age. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My dad has a business, and my uncles were all business people, and my aunts and uncles and a lot of family members had their own things, and cousins. And growing up, that's kind of just when you see the kind of freedom and flexibility that offers as a business owner, that's kind of what inspired me to want to do that as well. I knew that I wanted to eventually do my own thing, and so I said, let me study business if I want to start a business. It kind of seemed logical. And so I chose marketing because I think it was just because all the other options seemed less interesting, and this one seemed the most interesting, although it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do with my career. But finance and accounting and management seemed a lot more bland. So I said, marketing seems like it's a little bit more fun and in line with things I want to do with my career later on. So let me take that. In hindsight, I don't think it matters what you take. I don't even think I need to do business. I think just going to university and getting a degree is great. You're meeting people, you're socializing, you're creating, serendipity for yourself just, by putting yourself out there and creating connections. I think that's the real benefit of university, because there's not much that I actually learned in university that I actually gone on to apply in real life. And I learned that in my first job very quickly. So the reason I got into tech was because I had one class. So I will give credit to this one class in university. It was a digital marketing class. Okay. The only digital tech focused class in my entire 4 years at university, or 3 years. And it was really only one subject in that entire class. So it was like, 2 lectures worth. It was on affiliate marketing.
Okay.
And affiliate marketing, are you familiar with it?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Affiliate marketing is essentially, if I'm an affiliate marketer, let's say, okay, I'm KBD Insurance, you're an affiliate marketer. You might come up to me and say, hey, Curtis, I will get you leads to your office for car insurance. Example, every single time you make a sale off the car insurance, I'll send you the traffic. I'll send you the leads. They'll still convert on your website. Every single time you make a conversion, you got to give me 50%. Example. Is that kind of it?
Kind of, exactly. So that's what it is. There's a lot of different examples of that. So Amazon would be one of the biggest. Basically, like, if I really like a book and I want to tell everybody to buy it, I could create like this special affiliate link, send it to all my friends, and if they buy it, Amazon's going to give me a cut of those sales. So there was one class in university that talked about this, and I thought it was really fascinating, because I was like, oh, so you mean I could just sign up for all these affiliate networks and start promoting things online and make money? And I actually gave it a go. I started doing that myself. I created like Twitter accounts, and that were books is one of them, and I would just like talk about books and then promote books and try and get some sales. It never actually really made that much money. I would make like $100 here and there, but it kind of gave me an insider into how to make money on the internet. And so I was doing this just while I was in university, and as soon as I graduated, I started looking for jobs, and one of my friends worked at this tech company in Montreal, and I said, hey, they were actually hiring an affiliate marketing manager. And so I pinged him. I said, hey, like, I don't know much about it. I've tried it a little bit. I just finished university. I'm looking for a job. Can you help me get my foot in the door? So he says, yeah, for sure. Gets me an interview. And next thing you know, I get hired. And it just, my career in tech kind of took off from there.
Interesting. As an affiliate marketer manager.
That was my first job at this company. So basically this company, was so Montreal, very well known for the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It was not MindGeek. It was a different company. And so that was my first job out of university. And so that they make a lot of their money through affiliate marketers.
Yeah.
And so as a manager, I was basically responsible for this suite of affiliate marketers and making sure they had everything they need to promote our products. So whether it be, you know, they need banners, they need videos, they need whatever it is, just making them happy because they would send us a lot of traffic and a lot of sales. So that was my
and a sale, I guess, would be a subscription to the service.
Subscriptions to services. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a pretty simple business model, that the adult entertainment industry.
It is. It's a wild industry. I didn't stay too long in it. You know, I think like it was a really nice experience getting into that, and that really opened my eyes to the world of tech. So when I got in there, I started to see data scientists and programmers and marketers and product managers and all these different roles and all the things they were doing. And I was like mind blown. I was just like, I thought it was really incredible because basically I'm coming from, you know, my family was always in like retail stores and really like local businesses that required a lot of infrastructure to get up and running. And then you go in here and it's basically, we would sit in a boardroom and be like, let's do this. And then, you know, 3 days later, we're doing it and we're making money. Like there was nothing to it other than 3 people sitting at a computer, writing some code and a designer making it pretty.
The margins in tech are absolutely insane. We'll get into that a little bit later. Do you follow SEO a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
So what's maybe you can comment on this. Maybe you can't, and that's fine too. I love following SEO. I don't follow it as much as I used to, but I still keep up to date with the most up to date trends. You know, stuff that's changing. Google's always changing the algorithm with regards to search engine optimization. I read somewhere that Google right now, they're kind of attacking the affiliate marketing space. Attacking is maybe the wrong word. They're being a little bit more strict with it because they want to make sure that experts in the field are actually producing the content. So for example, I'll just use myself as an example, KBD Insurance. I'm in the insurance space, home, car, and business. They want a company that does that every day to write the content about the space that they're in. And affiliate marketers are starting to complain because Google is essentially penalizing them, saying that, hey, even though you're sending traffic over to KBD Insurance, you're not an actual insurance broker. You're not an actual insurance agent. We don't really want you writing about this stuff because you're not in that space. Do you have any comments about that? Or
yeah, I think like it makes sense.
It's the rise of the last. Sorry to cut you off there. It's kind of like Google wants to make sure that experts in the field are the one giving the advice or writing the content. If I can add on to that,
Google wants to make sure that as a user, you're getting the most up-to-date, truthful, best information that you possibly can. I think like at the end of the day, that's really what they want. And that's why they keep working on the algorithm to make sure like their system can't be gamed. And so I think that in terms of like affiliate marketing, you know, and people pushing out things that they don't necessarily know much about, there's a lot more success stories for people that push things that they know a lot about than those people that don't know a lot about something and push it out there.
I would agree.
And so, you know, I think the new affiliate marketing is really, if we think about influencers, and so they're building brands on TikTok or on YouTube or whatever it might be. And so the biggest ones are going to be those that have kind of niched into something. So as a parent, you know, I follow a lot of these parenting accounts, and they will talk about stories with their kids and stories with other kids and or just things that they're learning, and they grow a big, you know, reputation. And whenever they say, this high chair is the best one that you could buy, that's the one I'm buying, and I'm using their link to buy it, and they're getting a commission on it. So I think like most people nowadays are going to follow people that have built a reputation around something very specific, and those people are the ones that are going to be successful. And I think Google is smart enough to know who actually knows what they're talking about versus who doesn't, in a way.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
But and they're going to give priority in search results to those people.
Because you can't really game the system anymore. I mean, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I've been doing SEO now for, let's say, like 4 years, really trying to understand it. And pretty much everyone's self-taught on SEO because it changes so often. You can't really take a class in university. They can't come up with a curriculum because it changes too fast. They can't keep up with it. So most people, there's a little SEO community. And like 10 years ago, what they would talk about, I wasn't doing SEO at the time, but you could basically just keyword stuff and you could just get all these crappy backlinks to your website. You could get, and Google wouldn't know the difference. But then all of a sudden, whenever they would release like a really big update, some people's traffic would drop off a cliff. So it's very interesting to see how far they've come. And it's going to be interesting to see where they're going. And I guess, I wasn't going to take the segue here, but we can kind of touch on it now and touch on it more a little bit later. I think, you know what I'm about to say, they're incorporating AI into a lot of the search results now, with Bard is their product, I believe. And do you have an opinion on, I know it's very, very early in the game for artificial intelligence. What do you see? How do you see the platform of Google evolving with regards to the search results, Google search more specifically?
I think honestly, I have no clue. I have no clue.
It's a good answer.
The direction it's going to go or might go in. But what I do know is that the ultimate mission is always going to stay the same. And that's really just providing the best experience and best information for its users. And so the way they might do that, I don't know exactly how that's going to be, but it's always going to be about putting the user first and making sure whenever they search something that the information they get is highly relevant to what they're searching and highly accurate. So as someone who is in business and wants to make sure that I get users through Google search, my goal would be to always focus on providing just really good, really accurate, high quality content, putting it out there, and knowing that I'm going to be rewarded by Google for doing that, rather than trying to game Google by putting out a quantity of content that may not be super relevant. For example, I think a lot of people are going to try and write all their blog posts with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to work because it's going to be ChatGPT might spit out something different for every single person. But nonetheless, I don't know that the content's going to be good enough for Google to say, oh, okay, I'm going to send you all of this traffic because you have the most amount of blog posts on this subject.
Yeah, I would agree. And even if it does give you that short-term boost, I don't think maybe I'm wrong. And again, you had a really good answer before. Like, no one knows where this is going to go. Even Google doesn't know exactly where this is going to go. They have their mission, which you hit the nail on the head. They're basically just trying to give the most relevant and the best and the easiest search results for the user. The core of their ethos is the user experience and giving good information. But yeah, I would kind of agree. People that are trying to use AI to just pump out content and go, and they're not actually editing any of it, it can definitely help you write content and write it a little bit faster. But to do it at 100% and take like 100% the job of a content writer, they're not there yet. And even if you do see like a short-term spike in web traffic from search engine optimization, longer term, I think you're right. I think it'll probably drop. Google will catch on. Hey, this is really crappy content and you're just going to get dinged. So
I also think like it's hard to picture a world without Google, but
yeah,
it's also very possible that in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, something else is going to take its place, something different, something that we don't have the vision to see what it is. But Google might become irrelevant one day.
It's possible, yeah, for sure.
And I think AI has something to play in that. I mean, just look at ChatGPT, for example, and its growth in a period of 30 days. I think I don't have the actual stat, but it was one of the biggest. It was the biggest product ever launched, like in terms of actual users within 30 days. Like they compared it to like Facebook and Instagram and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and it was like 10x what everything else was.
Yeah.
And
I think it took them, just to add on to that, I believe it was 4 days for them to get to 1 million users. It was under a week. And I think the next fastest platform to ever do that, I want to say was Instagram, but it took them months. So literally launched it 3-4 days, 1 million users, and the servers kept crashing. You couldn't really use it because you'd go onto the website. There was too many people going on it.
Too many people.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you just take that as an example. So if there's something really groundbreaking that gets released any day, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people saw it coming. I didn't.
Yes.
Most people didn't.
Yes.
Most people are average schmucks like me.
Yeah.
And they don't really see these things coming. And so it's very possible that there's something else out there that's going to just come out of nowhere, and it's going to be a lot more relevant than ChatGPT or a lot more relevant than Google. And that's where all the attention is going to go. And so all this SEO work that we're doing might not be relevant in 5-10 years.
I agree. Have you started incorporating, so let's go back to Journey Education. So you are helping people to learn how to code, correct?
Correct.
Amongst other things, but that's like one of the things that you guys do at Journey Education. When you're teaching people now, have you thought about perhaps changing the curriculum? So as opposed to just teaching them like one language and they have to learn this code, that you're now going to start teaching coders how to incorporate artificial intelligence into them learning how to code. Have you started to think about that yet? Or maybe do I not know what I'm talking about, which is also possible because I don't know how to code.
Funny enough, like our courses, so if I take our web development program, so that's our coding course, that has been our longest course. So we've been running that since 2014, and we change the curriculum every single time we run the course. Small changes. There's always small changes because XYZ technology went from version 4 to version 5, but it's completely different. So now we have to teach that or whatever. But the fundamentals have always kind of stayed the same. And so that's really been our focus in these courses, because we have to really teach people how to think like programmers, how to be independent, how to do research, what to look for on Google when they come into problems. Like it sounds silly, but that's really what it is. And so the fundamentals of the course have kind of always stayed the same. And I think it's all, for the foreseeable future, that's really the direction we're going to take with our course, is really focus on the fundamentals, because we only have, it's a 400-hour course condensed in 3 months, or if you take it part-time, it's 6 months. We only have limited time, and we have to focus on teaching things that you're going to be able to then apply on the job in order for you to learn new things. And
Can you give us an example?
For example, our course there's many programming languages. We teach JavaScript. The reason we teach JavaScript is because it is one of the most widely used languages, especially in web development. It's used both on front end, back end. And so for the longest time, there's been a lot of job opportunities in that field. And it's also something that's somewhat easier to teach than some other languages. And so we teach JavaScript, but very well knowing that many of our grads are going to go onto jobs where they may not use JavaScript. They may use another language, but they've already learned one language in 3 months. They know how the basics of programming work. So now they could go on in this new job, and in the first few weeks, they could learn another language and pick it up fairly quickly because they've learned the basics of another language in a short amount of time.
Are they all similar? Because again, I don't know how to code, so I don't know the answer to this. Are all the different languages, like at their core, do they have, are there consistencies amongst the different coding languages?
Yeah, and so I won't pretend to be an expert either, but in a nutshell, yes. I mean, you'll have variables, you'll have functions, you'll have like arrays and ways of doing things. So A lot of the times, yes. It's just the way they're written is different. And their use cases could also be different. And so it really just depends on the company you end up going to work for, what tech stack they're using, and that's, what you're going to adapt.
Interesting. Have you had any like hotshot web developers come out of your program? I know they work in like a Silicon Valley, or they're out off in Dubai or something like that, and they're like, "Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much, man."
Well, I think like we have so many incredible stories, and that's what keeps me doing this. Sure, we have people that have gone on to work at Amazon or Google or some of these big name tech companies. That's the minority. Most will work for cool startups or your average tech company just in Montreal. Consulting hires a lot. Surprisingly, think like KPMG or Deloitte. You wouldn't think they hire a lot of developers, but they do. And the finance industry hires a ton as well, such as RBC or TD, for example. And then your telecom companies hire a ton, like TELUS and Fido, and well, it's the same company, but so it's really a little bit scattered all over the place. But I think like what's been really inspiring about what I do is that we get people from all sorts of different backgrounds. So, for example, if I think many years ago, we had one guy, just recently divorced and was a teacher, not making a huge income, just, almost nearing 50 years old and needed a change, needed more money, needed something different. Kind of like tech, dabbled with it in the past. And so he came to our boot camp in a few weeks, learned what he needed to learn, got a job straight out of the course. I believe it was at a company called AppDirect at the time, which is a pretty big. It's a U.S. based tech company, but they have an office here in Montreal. And the rest is history. Fast forward 10 years, I look at where he's at today. Senior developer somewhere. Stock options, making a great salary, health benefits, great work culture, life. 360. Kind of career change, and the stories like that we can say we have are really endless. There's so many of them, and I think that's what keeps me coming to work every day, is just those inspiring stories that people have, and those opportunities that we've helped them achieve.
Is there still a really, really, really big demand for web developers right now, especially given the job market that's going on, like with all the tech layoffs? I mean, it's no secret. You got Facebook, you got Meta, you got all these massive companies, and they're not the only ones that are going through tech layoffs right now. So is the demand for the web developer, is it still as strong as it was, say, 2 years ago?
No. And it sucks to say that, because this is the industry I'm in, and we've seen a slowdown in enrollments just in our programs because of this. And so there was a huge hiring boom, let's say spring 2021, right? Kind of like when I guess there was a boom in everything, real estate was at a peak and everybody started traveling again and buying things and doing renovations. And it really got the economy, going, and it also made inflation go crazy. And what happened then was basically tech companies were hiring like crazy. But interest rates started to go up. People started to spend less. A lot of these companies started to get less interest in their products. And so then, cue mass layoffs. I think this year alone, there was about 200,000 layoffs in tech across, I would say this is.
To add on to that, I grabbed some data. So this is coming from TechCrunch. So this is for 2023. January, there was 85,000 layoffs. February, 36,000. March, 37,000. April, 17,000. So to your point, a lot of layoffs happened over the past 4 months.
A lot of layoffs, mainly the big companies.
Yes.
The Facebooks and the Googles they account for a lot of it, because obviously they have more people to lay off.
Yeah.
But everybody's feeling it. And so what's happening now is is that, especially for our grads, it's a tough time. Our grads or new grads in general that just finished computer science or engineering and we're hoping to get into tech, it's hard because there's less jobs available, and you're also competing with the 200,000 people that just got laid off and have experience at these big names. So it's going to be a tough time for new grads, but I'm still very, very optimistic about this career path in the future, because I think today, if you could weather the storm for a few months, or it may even be a few years, in the long run, we know that tech is still going to grow. There's still a lot of room for it to grow. So I pulled some stats before that are pretty interesting. So 63% of the world currently has access to the internet. So that means there's still 40% of the world that doesn't have access to the internet. Would you say that that's going to stay the norm for the next 10, 15, 20 years? Or do you think more people are going to get access to the internet over time?
I would definitely say more people are going to get access to the internet.
Right. Every year, more and more and more
Yes.
people are getting access to the internet.
Yes.
That means what?
I think that's a safe bet, unless we have like a nuclear war or something. Hopefully that never happens, but yes, I would agree with that.
So of those, that's about 5 billion people. Of those 5 billion people, 4.5 billion of them use social media every day. And of those 4.5 billion that use social media every day, they use it on average for 3 hours a day. So those numbers are going to grow as more people get access to the internet on the global scale. Those people are going to need new products. They're going to need new services. They're going to need new technology. They're going to need new phones. They're going to need XYZ, right? And so that just means that the demand over time is going to constantly increase. There's still a lot of room for the demand for digital and tech products to increase over time. So even though right now it doesn't look so optimistic, and I'd say we may want to rethink career paths if we're going into tech right now, I think that if I was a new grad and I just finished computer science, I would weather the storm, because in the long run, I think there's still going to be a huge demand for those skills, and it's all going to work out in the end. I think even with AI, a lot of people are worried about AI.
That was my next question.
Taking my job.
Yeah.
AI is, I'm not an expert, but I really do feel like it is going to take jobs away from people.
I would agree.
However, I think that other jobs are going to take their place. And so maybe if you're doing quality assurance, I'm thinking of a very random thing, like quality assurance on like a chocolate production line or something, there's a machine or a robot that can take your job.
And it'll do it better than the human as well.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it'll do better.
Yeah.
But maybe then the play is you need to be the person that can repair or build that robot.
Yes.
So I just think like things are going to shift. So certainly AI is going to take jobs, but maybe it'll create more than it takes.
Interesting. And I kind of want to stay in this AI part. So here, I'm going to push you a little bit more on that. You ever listen to the All In podcast?
A little bit.
Yeah, I listen to that like religiously. I love those guys. They're really good. I think it's
you and many others apparently.
Yeah, I think they always have a really great balanced conversation. They all know what they're talking about. You know, you got one guy with this point of view, one guy with that point of view, one person with another point of view. I think they really come together. There's never any really big arguments most of the time. Sometimes when they get into politics, there's two guys in particular. They'll kind of maybe jab at each other a little bit more than the others. But overall, it's a very balanced discussion about the economy, politics, and technology, and a bit of science. I'm not a science guy though. And so Sachs and Chamath Palihapitiya, they were just saying, so they kept giving examples of tech companies that were laying off web developers like en masse. One of them said that they basically got rid of a third of their workforce because ChatGPT was able to do the jobs, was able to help the web developers to do their job more efficiently. And so basically their conclusion was, look, at this point in time, we don't think that AI is going to completely replace the web developer. What it is going to do is it's going to help the web developer 10x their productivity, which means that there's going to be less need for actual web developers because the AI can do a lot of that, which is going to increase the margins for all these tech companies. So tech, as you know, it already is a high EBITDA margin space. They make a lot of money because it's very, once it's like kind of set up, once the programming is set up, it's very scalable. You don't have to add more people onto that. So I don't know. It's like, I understand the argument. Okay, well, yes, they're not going to actually help in the web development per se, but they're going to help build the AI products themselves. But I don't know. I still see like AI replacing a lot of the web developer labor as well. You know what I mean? Like, I think the AI will eventually start to just help improve itself. And again, neither of us are AI experts, and no one knows for sure. I mean, even Google, the CEO of Google, was talking about AI, and he even said himself, he's like, we're still learning about what this thing can do. They don't even know themselves the potential of Bard. So what do you have to say to that? Like, do you think that, so in the aggregate, that people that work on technology are going to remain more or less the same as AI comes in, or do you think that's going to diminish?
I mean, I think like so I'll take my answer in a bit of a weird direction, but the way I kind of view this is, in a way, for me personally, I like to stay on top of these things and these trends because I find it interesting, but I don't like to go too deep into it. And I think that in a way, ignorance, the saying, ignorance is bliss. And that's kind of how I see it, because I can't predict the future and I don't want it to stress me out too much. I want to live in the moment a little bit more. And I think that I can make a really good living for myself. I'm just really the best at what I do. And so I think that no matter what path you choose as a career option, and it can always change over time, if you're really passionate about it and really good at it and you make yourself stand out, no matter what, you're going to make it work. And so that's how I kind of view these things, is that I see a lot of students coming in and applying for our courses or asking us questions, and they're so worried. Is AI going to take my job? Are there jobs out there for me? Can I, I don't speak French. Can I get a job in Quebec? Or what, like, everything is worrisome, and I get it. It's stressful to look for a job, and it's stressful to think that robots are going to take your job, or like you're spending all this money and time to learn something new, and you don't know if is there a demand for it in 5 years or 10 years. And the reality is like most people are not smart enough to know. I don't think anybody could really tell you what the world's going to look like in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Some people are a little better at predicting than others.
It's like saying where the stock market's going to be. Like, no one knows for sure.
It's really hard, right? And so for me, I just think like, okay, why don't I just focus on the present and just be as good as I can be at the things that I'm doing and the things that I like to do, try and make myself stand out. And that's how I'm going to, choose to live my life, because I think that, trying to focus too much on the future and and AI and the things that are going to come and kind of change the way we live are going to stress you out, and they're going to throw you off, and you're going to think every decision you're making is the wrong one because the future is telling you something different, or you read an article in Forbes that's telling you something different. So I think in a way we just need to start to own our craft a little bit more and know that it's okay that in 5 years we want to change again and do something different, or in 10 years we want to change and do something different. We could always relearn new skills. We could always do something different. We could change our career path. So why don't we just set ourselves up for success today with the information we have at hand, and do the things we like to do, and try and focus on living a happier, more balanced life. And that's kind of like my philosophy here. So I follow these trends, I look at them, I have ideas about them, but I try and just focus on the present right now, because that's all I can really do. And I think like ever since I became a parent, I have 2 kids now. Both, I have a 10-month-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I have no choice but to live a little bit more in the present and not let all that future stuff stress me out, because I want to, be able to enjoy the time I have with them today. And so it's really changed my philosophy. It becomes really,
Having
really
children.
having children, it
Wow.
becomes really hard to, you can't work the same way that you did when your kids are really, really young. Some people can, but it becomes really challenging. And so you have to start to just live in the moment a little
Your
bit more.
priorities shift.
Your priorities shift. And that's the way I think that's a strange answer to this question, but it's the realest answer that I can give, because the reality is I have no clue what the future looks like. And so I choose to be a little bit more ignorant about it because it makes me happier today.
Very interesting. That's a really good outlook. I think it's kind of like live in the present, adapt, and roll with the punches.
In a way, that's what I do. I think that everything's going to be okay ultimately. I know also, like, I always like to learn new things and do things differently. And so, as long as I just keep learning a little bit more every day and getting a little bit better every day, then I should technically be able to keep up with what's going on out there.
Damn, you're like a psychologist. I'm listening to you talk. I'm like, damn, he's right. You're right. Okay, I want to switch gears and I want to go back to Journey Education, and I want to go back to Bluebird. So you made a comment when we were communicating via email. You said you guys were sunsetting Bluebird. So can you kind of just talk to us about the current structure of the businesses that you're running? And then we'll also get into the point when you said, so correct me if I'm wrong, Bluebird at one point was training web developers, and the web developers didn't have to pay for anything until they got hired. And you mentioned that business model did not work. So can you kind of just talk to us about this whole entire ecosystem that you have?
So Bluebird is it's excuse me, let me restart that. So Bluebird's a tech sales course, not a web development course.
Okay.
And so the idea around Bluebird was that working in tech has a lot of opportunity if you don't have an engineering degree, or you don't want to learn to code or whatever, you don't want to do something super technical, but you want to work in tech and you want to make a good living. Sales is an extremely good avenue to get into because your background does not matter whatsoever. It's a very, 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 I'd say, I don't want to use the word easy, but it's the barrier to entry is very low.
Mm-hmm.
And so the barrier to entry is very low, but at the same time, the opportunity is very high. So it's not the norm, but there are many people that do enterprise sales for tech companies that make $400,000 or $500,000 a year plus.
Mm-hmm.
Many people.
Mm-hmm.
Not the norm, but still many people doing it. So the opportunity's there. And and we're talking regular people. When I say regular people, I mean they didn't go to Ivy League schools. They didn't have all the connections that some other people have, and whatever it is, they just hustled. And so the idea around Bluebird was, let's teach people who have an interest in sales, an interest in working with people, a little bit of grit and determination, how to sell software. Let's teach them how to sell software, just the basics. So we just teach things like, prospecting, cold calling. We teach the tools like using Salesforce or HubSpot, just really the fundamentals that you would need to know to get your foot in the door somewhere. Most companies hiring SDRs. SDRs is a sales development representative. That's your entryway into a tech sales career. That's your first job that you're getting. When they're hiring SDRs, they're just looking for people with grit and determination. They don't really look at degrees. They don't necessarily look at experience because most people don't have any. They look at things like, are you a team player? Did you work in, did you do competitive sports maybe? Or did you do anything client-facing, like work in a bar or a restaurant or those kind of high-pressure environments?
It's interesting you say that because those are the exact same characteristics that I look for, because insurance, it's more or less a commodity. And so when you're looking for people who are going to sell insurance. It's a different profile. There's one profile to sell and one profile to service the clients, but the profile to sell is the exact same thing. Did you play competitive sports? That's a huge plus. Did you work in client facing industries like restaurants or bars, speaking to people all the time? That's another huge plus. Interesting you say that, because those are the exact same things that we look for when we're hiring people who are going to work in sales at
That's
our
right.
company.
And so, okay, did degrees matter?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not one bit.
Experience?
To be honest, I'd rather have someone with like 1 or 2 or 3 years experience as opposed to someone who's had 25 years experience, because you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And a lot of times if they've been working in sales for 20 years, 25 years, they have habits that you can't really, they don't always have the best habits. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. And you can't change those bad habits. And sometimes, in my experience at least, it can infect other players on the team. And so, again, in my experience, that hasn't worked for us. I'd rather have someone who's green or maybe 1 or 2 years experience. They're malleable. And basically we can teach them the way that we work at our office.
Yeah, and I'd say that's the norm for most companies that hire a lot of sales reps,
Yeah.
whether it be insurance, tech.
Yeah.
And so what we did was basically created this. We got people who worked in tech sales that were highly successful. And we said, okay, listen, we're going to get you a group of 40 people. And can you, for the next 6 weeks in the evenings, teach them everything you know about, not everything you know, but just enough so that when they're done this course that you're going to teach them, they could get hired at tech companies as SDRs. And so that was the idea. And we said, these people are not going to pay a dime to take this course. They're just going to apply for it online. So we ran like ads on TikTok and Instagram and all sorts of stuff promoting this. Got so much interest. People come in, they take this course. The idea is they're going to get a job. And then once they get a job and start making money, they're going to pay us over 12 months or 24 months. There were multiple payment options. The course was it was about $6,000 US, but you can pay.
That was your cost.
No, that was what we charged the client once they get a job.
Okay. Got it. $6,000 US. Okay,
Our margins are very high on that.
Okay.
But we take a lot of risk, right?
Yep.
And so that was the idea. I said, there's the barrier to entry is really low. We can teach this stuff. There's tons of jobs out there. How could this not work? And so we pushed ads, TikTok, Instagram, got a bunch of people interested, applying for the course, enrolling in the course.
How many people did you have enrolled at one time?
So we would do like 40-ish people per class.
Okay.
And we've ran over the past year and a bit, we ran about 5 classes.
Damn. Okay.
Okay. So these are live online cohort-based classes. So they're instructor-led.
Yeah.
And what happened was, like, these people on paper, they seemed like they were very interesting and they would be really, really great. And I still believe to this day they would be really great in this role, but they had no skin in the game for this course. And when they realize that you actually have to work for it. So in sales, you're going to get out what you put in. You're really in the driver's seat. It's mostly commission-based roles. So you get a base salary plus commission. And you have to be very self-driven, and you have to be really a go-getter. You have to have a lot of grit and determination. And all these people that came in and took our courses were really great people, but they seemed to lack that ambition. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them, surprisingly, almost all of them. And so what happened was, one, we would run the course. Most people, I'd say we'd go from 40 to 20 after the first week. Mm-hmm. People just stopped showing up. They had no skin in the game. There was no consequence for doing so. Go from 40 to 20. And then those last 20 would start to trickle, and we'd end up with a graduating class of like 10 by the end of it, because most people didn't just, it's too much work. It's 4 nights a week. I don't want to do whatever. They just trickled off. We'd end up with a graduating class of 10. Of those 10 graduates, I'd say like 8 of them just kind of disappeared into the abyss and did nothing with it. Yeah. And then the last 2 would love it, go get a job, pay us back. And so that was like after the first one we did. And so we did like, 4 more iterations of this, trying different approaches to, we tried, let's filter people better beforehand to make sure they're a good fit. Let's change maybe the pace of the course or change the instructors. We tried different things, but it kept resulting in the same thing of most people not finishing the course and only just a handful of people actually going out and getting a job. And so one, it's not a viable way to run a business. And so we had to kind of scrap it, but like, I'm really disappointed because I feel like right there was like a few hundred people that were given this really amazing opportunity. And no joke, you can make 6 figures working in tech sales within your second or third year. Like, you're going from making almost no money.
And most of these people, were they unemployed, or most of them were, what were they doing?
Mostly unemployed, recent grads, or working minimum wage jobs like retail, or restaurants or things like that. And they had a great opportunity in front of them, and just did not want to take it. And I still don't fully understand why. But that's ultimately why we had to sunset Bluebird, just because it's such a great product, but without any skin in the game from our consumer, like, it was really hard to get them to commit and follow through all the way to the end, even though I know we could have helped them. People didn't want to see it through. And so
Did you guys like try at the end? Because it's really, the story is, I've lived through this as well. Actually, more my partner Adam. And so we went on this hiring spree at our company over COVID as well, about 2 years ago. And so we were doing the exact same thing. We would recruit all these people, mostly kids, but same thing. They were either just coming out of school, or they were current students, or they were just looking for a new career. We hired a bunch of people. We went through all the training, and we would pay, because in order to get your home and car insurance license or commercial insurance license in Quebec, you have to pass these exams. It's pretty easy to pass the exams. And then once you pass the exams, we would give you a job. And the same thing. So we just had people bailing, wasting Adam's time, like a lot. It got really bad, but we kept adapting. And then the finishing touch, which really worked well, and this was such a minimal investment, we said, okay, you got to give us $500 up front. $500, it's nothing. We'll give it back to you at the end, assuming you pass all the exams. We're even going to give you, each time you pass an exam, we're going to give you money for passing exams. So we're essentially paying for your time. And that really ended up working because, like you said, they had skin in the game. And the mentality was, we lived through the exact same thing. When they had no skin in the game, you had people go MIA, you had people that didn't give a shit. It was borderline rude a lot of times. They waste your time. They're wasting their own time too, but they really waste your time. They make it seem like they're serious. And then when you're trying to contact them, get in touch with them for certain things, they're not showing up. And then they just stop answering. It's so rude. And so we said, okay, if you want to come join, it's $500 up front. And we had one person who's like, $500. Well, I don't know anymore. We're like, okay, you know what? If you don't know anymore, then you're probably not that serious about getting a career in insurance. So get out of here. And that seemed to work for us quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the direction we might take, in the future, is actually just charge an upfront fee for this. It takes some reworking, because I think, like, as an educational brand, we have to build up the notoriety and the trust. And I think, like, the reason we went with no upfront tuition, because it was a brand new product, brand new brand that we created. Yeah. And so we're like, well, there's no reviews online. There's no nothing. Like, the least we can do is do it like this and build ourselves up. Yeah. It still didn't work. But I think, all this goes to show is, like, if you're someone who is currently a job seeker, or, looking for a new career path, wants to get a career, just know, like, yes, it is hard. It is challenging to find a job, especially today. But most people are like what you've seen is they're just, they don't care. They're very even below average in terms of their determination in life. And so if you could just find a way to make yourself stand out, even just the slightest more than everyone else, then your opportunities are going to be a lot bigger than theirs. And so we see that time and time again. I'm a business owner, much like you. You probably, when you post jobs, you get like maybe you get a lot of applicants. When you post a job online, do you get, hundreds of applicants on LinkedIn or whatever it might be?
We get a lot of applicants, about 85% of which are not qualified. So, and by qualified, I mean has an existing insurance license. So if we got a job application, I'll put you this way. If we got, let's say we have a job posting and then we say, okay, you need to have your license. If someone unlicensed submitted their CV, follow that up with a call. Hey, I want to speak to you. Hey, I'm really serious about getting into this industry. I promise you, I would give that person a shot in 2 seconds because they went above and beyond what all the other candidates are doing. And if they sounded good on the phone, or even better, if they actually came here in person and said, hey man, look, I don't have my license. I'm willing to do what it takes. I'm looking to start a new career, especially if they were like young or just, switching careers. I would 100% take that candidate seriously, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I think that as a business owner, like if I post a job out there and we get tons of applications for anything we post, but like,
and it's so easy because they just like, sorry to cut you off there. It's just people now with Indeed and
the
LinkedIn. They literally
clicks,
click. We've called people back sometimes. They're like, yeah, the job posting, you applied to us. Like, who are you again?
No
and you're
idea.
like, dude,
Yeah,
like,
it's
okay,
crazy.
Yeah.
And so what happens with that is like, even if there's good people in that talent pool,
Yeah.
They get lost in the shuffle
Yep.
because you're discouraged as the hiring person. You're discouraged, and you just decide that you're not even going to look at any of those.
Yeah.
You just
get no shows for interviews.
You just post it as a formality, but realistically, like for me anyways, and I know a lot of my friends that own businesses too, whenever they're hiring, it's always going to be through a referral for the most part.
Yeah.
They come in through referrals. So the job's posted as a formality to put it out there so someone has something to look at. But we don't even look at the applicants. We just, because within a few days of posting it, people through our network come in and be like, hey, this person's good. I know this person. And now it's like, oh, you know this person? I know you. I trust you. I trust your opinion.
Yeah.
Let's meet them. Let's interview them.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And so it just goes to show, like, if you go the extra mile, like you just said before, of you don't have your insurance license, but you want to work here, send Curtis a message on LinkedIn or send him an email.
Yes.
Just, make yourself stand out. Just do
Yes.
that one extra little thing.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
But
no one's doing it.
The guy we hired in Ottawa, his name is Brian. He's been fantastic so far. Great attitude, ex-hockey player. And he sent his CV and then he followed it up with a direct message to me on LinkedIn. Not an automated message, he wrote it himself, short and sweet. I called him the same day. Went on his profile, looked at it, said, okay, damn, this guy looks like the exact profile. It's not a guarantee it's going to work, but I contacted him right away. And you're absolutely right. He stood out amongst all the other people and he has a job right now. I think he's happy. He seems to be happy. He keeps telling me how happy he is. So I'll take his word for it. But yeah, that's how these things work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we work with tons and tons of grads, and we try and get them to do this and make themselves stands out. But like, I think it's in one ear out the other for most people.
Yeah.
And it's hard. We're not really taught this stuff. Like if you've never really had a job or sat in your seat or sat in my seat, like you don't see the other person's point of view necessarily. So it's really hard to grasp that concept. You're like, well, no, like this is how they're asking, us to apply. I'm just going to do this. Like, I don't want to bother people, or, it's hard to grasp that concept for a lot of people who are very new to like a professional career path or very inexperienced. And so, that's what happens is they just end up, kind of in the pile with the rest of the resumes, and they never get seen. And it's just over and over and over and over again. And it's very discouraging.
And there is some truth to that too, especially for companies if the founder isn't doing the hiring. So if it's been outsourced to, let's say, an HR person who perhaps has a little bit less skin in the game, they probably aren't going to care as much either about a candidate that sticks out. So to defend the candidates who are perhaps a little bit shy to do this, or, I'm sure there's many examples where they have gone above and beyond. They've sent their CV, followed up with the call, or followed up with the personalized email, or followed up with, they went that extra mile and probably didn't get anywhere with it. And they go, well, screw these guys. I'm putting in all this extra effort and they're not even like looking at my CV. So I'm sure it goes both ways a little bit. Yeah. But I can say this for the viewers out there, for anyone who's listening, if you do that at KBD Insurance and you got a nice CV and you stand out, I promise you, we're going to give you a call. So
yeah, no, I think again, like it's going to come down to you have to be able to kind of read the room a little bit,
Yes.
meaning if you're going to work at some Fortune 500 company and think, oh, well, Kevin said we should stand out and send the owner a message on LinkedIn,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not the vibe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think this strategy works a lot easier with smaller
I
companies,
would agree.
founder led, founder hiring, or just smaller teams in general. But the same strategy could probably be applied to larger companies, because if you think of like let's just go with like an Amazon or a Facebook. So sure, they have like this massive team and HR and all that stuff, but within the company, there's just one person. Like there's a hiring manager somewhere who has a need on his or her team.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one person responsible for saying, "Hey Google, I need someone to do XYZ on my team. Like I really need this. Can we get this person hired?" So it takes a lot more digging. But once you find that person, that's like the equivalent to finding Curtis or finding Kevin at the
Mm-hmm.
company. Once you find that person and being like, hey, I noticed you have this need or you're doing this. Like, I love this, blah, 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 blah. Like, hey, let's chat. That's another way to make yourself stand out. And yes, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to hear anything.
Yeah.
And it's discouraging and it sucks, but it just takes that one time, right?
And it's a numbers game. You keep doing it and you have the right attitude about it and you're approaching it with a positive attitude, you're eventually going to have success. And by success, I mean, you're probably going to land a job that you want to have. So I agree. There's pros and cons to what Indeed and LinkedIn have done in terms of submitting your CV, but I think they've made it too easy. It's gone to the point now where, like we just mentioned earlier, it's literally click, 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 apply this job, apply this job, apply this job. They just go job searching. They click on 100 different, jobs in different industries, and they just click and apply. And they don't even remember where they're applying. They just want to get a job. Well, it's like, in my opinion, I don't think that's a very good way for you to try and find a job. I mean, you should at least have some type of interest and apply to an industry that you think you can be an added value to. And this is where the comment section always gets kind of funny. It's when you say things like this, they go, "I don't really care. I'm there for the paycheck. I hate my job." Well, it's like, you know what? If you actually hate your job, and the majority of your life is going to be at work, I mean, that's a pretty sad life, man. And so sometimes, like, just step up and, man, just suck it up. I'm not saying, you and I, do I want to come to work every day? Of course I don't, And there are going to be days where sometimes it's like, I really don't feel like going to the office today, but it's your duty, and get up and suck it up and go to work, And there's too many people that, I don't know, they have kind of it's like a sissy mentality.
Yeah.
There's a lot of softness.
There is a lot of softness. There's a lot of just acceptance with this is the way it is. This is what I have, or also blame. I think there's a lot
no
of
accountability.
no accountability. There's just
Yep.
blame. Oh,
Yep.
well, the market's bad, or there's a lot of competition,
Yeah.
or I didn't have this, or I
It's
didn't
easy
have
for you to
that.
say you own a business and stuff.
And sure, like,
Yeah.
some people, a lot of people are fortunate and they're born with connections, or they're born with money, or they're born with this, or they got to go to a good school. And maybe it is easier for them to say, but I think, like, I think it was Jeff Bezos that came up with this framework, and it's like the regret minimization framework.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like, I'm not sure if it was Jeff Bezos. I'll just say it was Jeff Bezos, but someone came up with this, and,
Yeah.
it really stuck with me. So the regret minimization framework is basically all the decisions you make today are about making sure that you minimize your regret in the future as much as possible. So whenever you're faced with a decision today, you think, will my 80-year-old self regret this or be happy I did it? And so it just kind of helps you make better decisions today. Because, for example, if you're in a really poor job, you're getting paid and you're comfortable, but you really are unhappy, think about your future self. Think about when you're 89 years old, and your time on earth is diminishing drastically. Are you going to regret that you stayed in a job or in a relationship or doing XYZ or living in this place or going and studying at this school? Are you going to regret it doing that for so many years when you're 80 years old or when you're 90 years old? And if the answer is most likely yes, then you need to come up with the courage to change, because time is limited. We're all going to die one day, and you don't want to spend majority of your time doing things that do not fulfill you or
Yeah.
bring you joy. And so, I use that philosophy a lot. Like, I'm like, is this bringing me happiness anymore? And if the answer is no, then I try to do something different. And it's not always easy. Sometimes you just have to roll with it. Like you said, just suck it up and roll with it. As a business owner, like, I do not want to go to work every single Monday. Like, sometimes I'm just tired and exhausted and not feeling it. It happens. But I think, like, as long as majority of the time you're happy doing what you're doing, then that's okay. You're not going to be happy all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like there's a certain amount of just responsibility that you need to carry yourself. Like, no one feels like going to work every single day. But if you absolutely just hate something or despise what it is that you're doing, and again, I would agree with you. I think it's a little easier for us to say that because there are some people who perhaps don't have the necessary skill set to go get a job that they want to have, and they do end up hating their lives. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of immigrants that came over to Canada and probably were working jobs because they didn't speak the language, that didn't necessarily want to work those jobs, but they had no choice and they had to support their families. So there's that side of the coin as well, which I'm aware of. But if you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can get a better job, or get a job that fulfills you more, a better job that's more intellectually stimulating, or whatever it is, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Take that little risk if there's a really good chance it's going to add to your happiness or add to the purpose in your life. This is why it's like this is a complete tangent that I'm going to go on. I found there was this guy, and so they talk a lot about universal basic income, especially with AI, and there's a lot of jobs that are being taken away. And he's like, look, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that AI, could take away a lot of jobs, but paying someone money to do nothing is going to create a crisis of purpose amongst humanity. Like, imagine just waking up and you have nothing to do and you just get all this money. Like, there's no purpose to your life. I mean, what a sad life, in my opinion. I mean, like, some people might go, well, whatever, but is at the end of your life, me personally, if I did that every day, woke up on a beach and just drank and got drunk all day, it's fun for a week. You can't do that for the rest of your life. You're going to wake up one day with a lot of regret, going, damn, what the hell did I accomplish my entire life? It's almost like we've taken a turn to the philosophical side of things. But it's
well, also, like, that will slow. I mean, you have to think, like, if majority of people are getting by and they're comfortable, then innovation is also going to slow down because there's less people that are being pushed out of their comfort zone to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Less businesses are going to be started because people are not put in a position where they need to do something different. And so what happens there? Like, I think that the economy just kind of slows down.
Mm-hmm. I
also think, like, a lot of the times, like, when I talk to people, like, so it's normal because I work in tech. So, like, we're always talking about, like, tech careers and these really, kind of abstract concepts for a lot of people. Like, it's very specific. You need specific education. You need to take specific courses. You need to learn really well how to use computers and how to code and how to do all this stuff and use software. But I think, like, for example, going on your when you said if you're an immigrant and you're here, it's it's a little bit more challenging. Like, there's also a lot of money. I don't know if you follow Cody Sanchez on
I don't.
YouTube. So she talks about boring businesses being things like laundromats, car washes,
Insurance,
HVAC, maybe not insurance, because basically it's things that can be, kind of the average person could kind of go in and figure out how that business works and make a good living. And so there's a whole bunch of baby boomers business owners that are about to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. They own businesses that cash flow right now, successful businesses. They're not going to sell those businesses. They might not have kids that want those businesses. They're just going to shut them down. They're just going to disappear. And what she talks about is, hey, like, you need to go, like, if you want to own your own business, if that's your dream and you don't know how to start the next Tesla or SpaceX, there is absolutely nothing wrong with owning a window cleaning company, a carpet cleaning company, an HVAC company. And you do not even need to start it from scratch. You don't even need money. All you need to do is find the person that owns one today and is about to retire and has no one to give their business to. You go to them and you just create a deal. Be like, okay, I'm going to take your business. I'm not going to pay you anything today, but over the next 10 years, I'm going to pay you a percentage of sales and let me take over your business.
And that's obviously after, like, you can't show up and go, hey, I'll take it. That's after working for the company for, you've earned your stripes.
No.
You're saying just straight up.
You straight up go do it because.
But how does the owner know? I'll push back a little bit on this. How does the owner know that this person's going to, like, be competent? You know what I mean?
The owner doesn't care, really. I mean, the owner is going to get paid. You put it in a contract, you have to pay them, or, maybe you have to take out a loan or something to pay them or whatever. But well, obviously, like, you should, present yourself well. But for the most part, the owner has no risk because that business is disappearing regardless.
Huh, interesting.
Right? They have nowhere to put it. So they might as well get an extra $500K, an extra $1 million. These businesses don't sell for millions and millions, like they're 500,000, $1 million, but they cash flow like 100 or 200,000 a year after paying all the expenses. Like we're not talking millions and millions, but they do decent.
It's enough to make a nice living.
It's enough to make a nice living. And you could also also these boomers, like, if you're really good at optimizing a business, you can take it to the next level. So Cody often says, like, the best businesses to buy is if you go in and see they still have a fax machine. There's room for optimization. That's a good tip. So I think, like, there's different ways to create opportunity for yourself, even if you're new to Canada or if you just grew up in a less economically comfortable household or something like that.
Huh. There's always different ways that you can go and make money. Or, like, the way you train is go make money on the internet. There's a lot of ways to make money on the internet. Like, a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even I was looking at the other day, I haven't tested out yet. I'm 99% sure it's too good to be true. But there's this guy, I follow him on YouTube, Matt Diggity. And so he was advertising for an AI program that would basically write the content for you, but it would do all the other stuff for you as well. So do the fact checking, the AI would write the content for you, but it wouldn't look like AI. And you just basically tell the program, okay, the target keywords for this article, I want it to be this, 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 and this. And it would write everything for you. And I thought to myself, damn, if I could just basically do this en masse, pump out 10 articles a day and have, like, my own blog, and basically, because once you get, I think the threshold, if you're getting 100,000 page views a month, you're probably making like almost 70, 80 grand. That's just to have the blog. You'll make it through AdSense. I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically I was just, like, listening to him, but my brain started firing these ideas like, oh, that could be a cool side project. Just literally go like that. Okay. Post. The point I'm just trying to make is there's always something, you can always innovate and find these really cool ideas on the internet, on other places as well. The example you just gave, to go and buy existing businesses where the current owner doesn't have a path to basically give to their children, where it's basically just going to die. There's always something. But again, it kind of goes back to a lot of people. They're kind of just complacent. Most people are complacent, and that's why people that just go above and beyond, just that little extra, are going to have a better living than the vast majority of other people. It's like I talk in my business all the time. Insurance, any industry, service industry for that matter, it's like, just whatever you say you're going to do, just do it. You'll be surprised at how much success you'll have just by doing that. If you value your word to your clients, there's a really good chance you're going to have a lot of success in your career. It's that simple. If you say you're going to do this, just do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And I think, like, especially that's especially true with our generation. and future generations, because we just kind of expect a good service from people nowadays, and we should expect a good
Yeah.
service. And I think like older generations had a little bit of an older mentality. I'm thinking like, for example, I just did a massive renovation on my house, and the construction industry. So everybody I dealt with was a little bit older than I am. So the older generation, and the mentality is just so different than ours, where it's like they just don't seem to care
Yeah.
about the customer in
I
the way that
agree.
we do in our generation.
Yeah.
They're not organized. They're not really, so I had a general contractor, and he would hire like XYZ company to do my gutters or whatever it is that the company's been using forever. Oh, I've been using them forever. I'm like, well, look at their Google reviews. Like, they're awful. Like, why would we use them?
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't look at Google
Yeah.
reviews. Like, but like, this is how it is nowadays.
Yeah.
And so I think like, yeah, our generation really expects, good service, good, honest service from people. And that's, it's really easy to stand out that way, because the previous generations don't really offer that, and those
Yeah.
people are still in a lot of these businesses.
And the internet also has made it a lot more transparent for the consumer, because like you said, you can literally just go on there, Google my business, you can see their reviews. Most of the time the reviews are a pretty good indication of whether this is going to be a good vendor or not. I mean, that creates a lot of transparency. Social media platforms, now, sometimes it's gone to the opposite, the other end of the pendulum for like cancel culture, which I don't really feel like getting into that now. But it's just the internet has made everything a lot more transparent. It's not that easy to hide.
No, it's really hard. I think like the truth will always come out with social. So as a business owner, you really have to do honest, good work with people
Yeah,
to survive in the long term. You might get by in the short term with being a little bit shady, but I don't think it's going to last. Eventually, like, it's going to come out, and it's going to burn down.
I agree. Joey, how long have we been going for?
1 hour and 24 minutes.
Damn. I've really enjoyed this conversation so far.
I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're doing well. It's like I knew I was going to enjoy it. I'm enjoying it more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. You've had
Me
a
too.
lot of good takes. Is there anything else? We kind of covered everything that you wanted to cover. Here, I think we can end with this. What do you think is, we kind of already touched on this, but I think it'd be a great place to conclude. So, you have the job, you have your company, Journey Education, Bluebird. What is the job outlook moving forward for the tech sector? I know this is $1 million question, and it's not saying don't take this, the viewers don't take this as like the above all and be all. Where do you see technology going? And I'll preface this by saying, so interest rates, as most people know, they've gone up recently. And when interest rates go up, the cost to finance certain things goes up as well. And so if the revenues are going to drop for the tech companies, the investors want to see profits. Okay, they want one or the other. You can have a lot of revenue. Well, ideally, you can have a lot of revenue and a lot of profit. That's the best case scenario. But if you can't have that, you need one or the other. So if revenues are going to drop, that means that profits need to go up. One way to have profits go up is you can cut a lot of the staff. Now, if you look at the yield curve and you look at basically like the bond market, what it's telling us in central bankers, the market is starting to factor in an interest rate cut over the next, I think it's like in a year and a half or 2 years. And I think they will as well. There's too much debt in the system. And the reason why I'm saying this, so I'll say my hypothesis, I think that tech hiring will resume. I think they'll start to hire again in the near future. By near future, I'd say within, let's say, 12 to 18 months, just because interest rates are going to drop down. Interest rates going down is good for the technology sector. We'll just keep it simplified for that. That would be my hypothesis. Again, I could be completely wrong. What's your hypothesis for the job outlook in the tech sector?
Oof. I think,
I should get a crystal ball here next time.
yeah. Well, I think long term, when I say long term, I mean let's call it like, okay, not even midterm, like 3 to 5 years is going to be on the upward swing. The hiring is going to be back in full force.
I would agree.
And people are going to be spending more on software. People are going to be spending more on ads. A lot of people drop their ad budgets and so forth. So
More people are going to get access to the internet.
More people are going to get access to the internet. And so my takeaway is like 3 to 5 years, it's going to go up. But I don't know before that what it's going to look like. Like, that's where I'm like a little on the fence. You know, I think like it's very possible, like you said, that 12 to 18 months, we start to see hiring pick back up, tech industry pick back up. I don't think it's going to continue with mass layoffs. I think like there might be a few more, but I think, you know, at some point they've kind of cut it pretty slim.
Yeah.
I think at some point it's going to kind of just, you know, remain either status quo or start to slowly grow. I think we're going to be at that point now, but I think the big growth is going to start more in like 3 to 5 year range.
Just to add some context as well, Meta, Facebook, essentially they almost doubled their workforce from the onset of COVID until sometime in 2022. And yes, they've made a lot of cuts recently, but if you actually do the employee count, there's still more employees than they were pre-COVID. So just to kind of add on to that, yes, they're making a lot of job cuts because they hired a bunch of people and everyone was staying at home and going on the internet and doing all that kind of stuff. But even with all these job cuts, there's still a little bit more than what they were pre-COVID. So
yeah,
I would agree with the outlook that you just said. I think long term, I mean, I'm definitely bullish on tech long term. And I think from like a stock market perspective, I'll just take this a page out of the All In podcast. I thought this was a great point that they made. And they basically said that with AI, web developing teams are going to get more efficient, especially the good companies. There's no doubt about that. They're definitely going to get way more efficient with the help of AI. And tech already is a super high margin industry. And Jay Kalikanakis was saying from an investment standpoint, if you think that the EBITDA margins right now in tech are high, just wait and see in like 2 years or 3 years, they're going to shoot through the freaking roof.
Oh, for sure.
Which should be interesting.
You know, and I think like even like you see a lot of people that are just one person businesses now that are just like, they'll hire, they'll offshore like a personal assistant in the Philippines or something like that. And they'll, you know, the business is around like just content and selling like white papers and courses online. And these one person businesses almost fully automated doing, you know, $1 million plus revenue a year. So I think we see a lot of that. One more stat I want to add that I thought was super interesting. So I read this online recently. So the class of 23, so the graduating class this year,
75 Journey Education.
No, graduating class of universities.
Okay, excuse me. Sorry.
In North America.
Okay.
Or I guess you could say globally, 75% of the jobs they will pursue didn't exist when they started school 13 years ago.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to show like all the people entering school today in 13 years, like we don't know what the future is going to look like, but there's just the opportunities are going to be there. They're just going to be different.
I think that's a great place to end the podcast here.
I think so too.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Khoury of Journey Education, Curtis Killen of the Freemium podcast, president at KBD Insurance, home, car, and business insurance in Quebec and in Ontario. If you like today's episode, share it with one of your buddies and like it. And thank you very much, Kevin.
Thanks,
Much
Curtis.
appreciated.